Hey, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the latest Lethbridge-Stewart story, which has been out for a few weeks now, and we will be on to the next one very soon. So, in the meantime, a quick introduction to Time Squared by Rick Cross, which is book 877 in the series. I think, maybe 8. I can never quite work out. Right, so this book, what can we say about it? Let me a little bit about Rick Cross first. I met him via social media, as always, because, that's the thing nowadays. He was a huge fan of the Lethbridge-Stewart series, said some lovely, lovely things. And we got chatting about various Doctor Who bits and bobs. And during the course of our interaction, I discovered that he was an aspiring writer. Indeed, he's written a few bits here and there. And Sean Russell, the owner of Candy Jar Books and also editor of this series, he came up with an idea of doing a story set in New York called Times Squared, because Times Square, and he kind of wanted it to be basically Web of Fear but in New York, which honestly is not a bad pitch idea really. It's kind of cool, blockbuster Web of Fear in New York subways as opposed to the London Underground. It kind of writes itself. So I decided that, okay, if we're going to do this story, and it'd been on the books for a while, then it made sense to ideally get an American to write it so that it would have that authentic voice that is not always there for British writers writing in America. In fact, I can only think of one author I know that I've read who is actually a British dude who can totally write the American market, and that's John Connolly, who is without doubt one of my favorite authors. So anyway, we okay, let's make sense of this. We shall get this story commissioned. We'll get an American author doing it. So I approached Rick. He was absolutely for it, but of course. Yeah, and that's basically how this all began. And I gave him a shopping list, as I do with all the authors, This one more so than others because it was going to be a very direct sequel to The Web of Fear. More, kind of Forgotten Son kind of was a little bit, but it's more of a sequel to The Name of the Doctor, although it was set after Web of Fear. This one would actually be a sequel. It'd actually pick up the story of the Intelligence 7 months later, after it got defeated, or its plans got thwarted rather. It didn't really get defeated in the underground because of Janie's bumbling and destroying the Doctor's little machine. What happened to the Intelligence after that? What was its plan? Where was it going to go? So Rick and I got talking. He came up with some wonderful ideas, to be perfectly honest. And we worked together to finesse these ideas, to focus them a little bit more tighter. Because I'm sure, as Rick I'm sure would admit, if I gave him the chance to do absolutely anything, then this book could have been, I don't know, about 10 times the length that it actually turned out to be. Because it's a lot. It's, as I say, it's a story that pretty much writes itself. Blockbuster, Web of Fear, what can go wrong? But anyway, so this is how it all began. As I said, I gave him a few shopping list elements. Obviously Yeti, New York, Great Intelligence. Had to bring Owen back because Owen, who is now called Brigadier's nephew, and the reincarnated soul of Lethbridge-Stewart's brother, was a very key component of the Intelligence arc as set up in The Forgotten Son. So you had that. Also, I suggested to him, as we're actually going to be set in the US, let's focus our main characters. Let's not take the whole team because we've got loads of books that we can do with our whole team. So in this one, I said to him, we'll have Lethbridge-Stewart, Sally, Owen. Those are the only people from our series. But as with these things, as ideas developed, another character got brought in from the Web of Fear and the Abominable Snowman. I'm not going to say who this person is, since it's not really mentioned in the advertising, it's not mentioned on the blurb, and it hopefully will be a bit of a surprise to those reading it. You might work it out before you arrives, but you might not. Anyway, but again, it had to be an interesting spin on this idea, not just a obvious continuation, which I think Rick done very, very well. You know, captured his character extremely well and became an integral part of the story. Another thing that Rick wanted to explore, and I absolutely supported, was where did the Yeti come from? Because we do know that Padmasambhava was possessed by intelligence for 300 years, and he apparently somehow created the Yeti. But they're robotic life forms that were built, you know, in ancient Tibet, which begs the question: how, where, who made these creatures? And so Rick, one of the things Rick wanted to do was explore this, and indeed answer this question by introducing a character called, is it a spoiler? A little bit maybe, but he comes into it quite early on, called Jembawa, who is definitely part of that process. I'm not going to actually say exactly how, you read it to find out, but yeah, so Jembawa comes in, wonderful creation by Rick. Another thing I thought would be quite fun, because again, it's one of these things that I've always wanted to do pretty much since the series began, and that was bring into it Adrian Kramer. She's a character from the 1997 Doctor Who novel Vampire Science by Jonathan Bloom and Kate Orman, who originally appeared in, as I recall, a fan video called The Time Rift, which is by Jonathan, and apparently he played the 7th Doctor in it, and that originally featured Adrian Kramer. But by Vampire Science, she's Brigadier General in charge of the US side of UNIT. And I don't know why, it's just a character I always enjoyed. Indeed, she appeared in one of my earlier non-successful Doctor Who novels, which did get sent to the BBC but didn't pan out. So I always wanted to use her, and I thought it'd be quite fun to bring her into the series at this point and show what led her to become involved in UNIT anyway. So we talked to John. John was absolutely up for it. He was very helpful, actually, did a really good bio on the character, background, all that stuff. Gave it to Rick, and Rick ran with it. And honestly, as a fan, I get a little bit of a thrill reading Kramer, seeing her in a book that I helped produce, and bringing it back after 20 years, which is quite mad when you think about it. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So loads of reasons to read this book. Another thing that Rick came up with, and again, it's not really a spoiler because it's pretty much on the cover, and is this idea of the Yeti sans fur and covered in rats. And as you can see, it's very much a striking point of the cover, so it's not a spoiler. How this happens again is something you need to read to find out. And like I say, Rick ran with this idea, and it's such a wonderful, creepy idea. I mean, the second chapter, which in my opinion is definitely one of the best things that Rick wrote, is just an amazing little almost a contained episode, really. All follows this private detective under the New York subway, and he comes across a Yeti and indeed the rats, and it's a really, really intense, very claustrophobic, very nice character-based chapter. And you get more of this later on, of course. So yes, that's Time Squared. What else? Another selling point I'd say is it gives a chance for us to explore a bit more about the Brigadier and Sally's relationship. Because she's been in the series since day one. She's his fiancée. Although he did admit pretty much from the start, at least to himself, that he realizes he's not actually in love with her. And he's pretty much sure he's not going to marry her. And following on from Grandfather Infestation, Sally's basically maneuvered herself to work with him, and he's not happy about this. However, this idea of a holiday came along, so the two of them take it to New York, and Lethbridge-Stewart's hoping that maybe they can sort this issue out a little bit, but obviously the Great Intelligence have got other plans. So this is Times Squared. Look, this one's out already. It's currently in a special offer as well. If you buy the latest book, which is Blood of Atlantis by Simon A. Forward, which will be out any day now, if you buy that full price, you can get this baby for only £5 with it, which, let's face it, pretty good deal. Or to look at it another way, basically you get the two books £7 each. But that's only directly from us at candyjar.co.uk. Yeah, if you get it from us, then, and we always encourage our readers to come to us directly, because we're a small company, and the sad fact is you go to the bigger place like Amazon, they take such a big cut that the authors especially make less money, and for them to continue writing, as much as it's for love, we all want to make money, of course. So it'd be better for us, and we would appreciate it much more. Although we appreciate the fact that you buy our books and read them and enjoy them anyway, absolutely. We would appreciate if you would come to us, so that people make more money out of it. So you support us, and frankly, the more support we get, the more money that comes our way, the more we can continue making these books, and the authors will continue coming to us to write these fantastic stories. So yeah, that's the fourth book this year. Got two more coming, like I say. Blood of Atlantis, which will be out anytime now, and then Mind of Stone by Ian McLaughlin, which is just going through its final proofing stage right now. So it'll be in the printers in about a week, I believe, which means it should be out before Christmas. So that's going to be awesome. Yeah. So check us out. Check out Rick's book. Even if you've not read in the books before, this is not a bad jumping on point, because it's quite self-contained, although a sequel to Web of Fear and Abominable Snowmen. It's still written in a way that you'll get what you need to get in the reading of it. Although, of course, if you know these earlier stories from the 60s, then that will give you a richer experience. But it's a good jumping on point, because it explains pretty well Lethbridge-Stewart as he stands in our series, explains Sally, introduces you again to Owen, and explains why he's connected to Lethbridge-Stewart, how he's connected to intelligence. And it's just a rollicking good read. I mean, honestly, absolutely. I know I commissioned it, and yes, I spent a lot of time working it with Rick, and I edited it, and la. But honestly, I have read it as a book now, because I like to do that. And it's just a really good read. I can honestly say that. It's a lot of fun. It's very involving. It's going to be one of these books, I think, that people will remember, because it's got lots of wonderful things in it. As one reviewer said, and I think it's a fair call, it is the Web of Fear made as a blockbuster movie, which in itself is not a bad thing. I mean, let's face it, it's not a bad thing at all. So, yeah, absolutely. You guys, highly recommended. Slightly biased, as I said, but bias is not a bad thing, because it means you're passionate about something, and passion is definitely a good thing. We all need it. So, please give it a whirl. I'm sure Rick will love you for it. Oh, and if you need another reason to pick this up, check out Terry Malloy. He's got a wonderful foreword when she talks about not only his obvious Doctor connection, because we all know he played a creator Dark for the longest time, but he was a Doctor Who fan before that. As he says in the forward, he was there. One of his favourite creations of all time were not only the Brigadier, but also the Great Intelligence, which shows when he does a reading of Forgotten Son. And He also points out, it's a nice, he writes a little tribute to Nick Courtney, because he knew Nick Courtney, of course. He worked with him, not on Doctor Who, unfortunately, but he did work with him in the Scarifyers. And indeed, unfortunately, sadly, one of the last things Nick recorded was Masters of War, Big Finish audio drama, in which he played a brigadier opposite Terry Malloy as Stavros. And indeed, they were due to record the last of the Scarifier stories before Courtney's untimely demise. So yeah, a wonderful forward. It's quite touching. It's honest, again, as you expect. And it just complements the story, because Terry understands what Doctor Who is. He understands the fans. He understands all of it. So yes, as I say, you guys, this is the book to get. Get this one. It's a good place to start. Nice cover by Martin Baines. As I say, it's part of a deal right now. And yeah, please do check it out. Rick will like you for it. He will love you for it. We'll all love you for it. Post a good review. And while I'm here, if there's anything else you want me to talk about in this, these videos about Lethbridge-Stewart, about writing, about my processes, about editing, anything, please leave comments below, as they say, and I will check them out and maybe answer them. Anyway, until next time, when I will get back to book 2 and talk about the Schizzoid Earth, check you later. Ta-ta!